We are now ready to talk about attaching additional chambers. Right now, when you purchase an instrument, you will have received the clear standard 2x3 chamber. For many applications, you may not want to use this chamber if you're planning to do intricate measurements like response curves or even survey measurements. It's often much easier to do if you have a light source installed. So we're going to go through the process of how to install the light source. The next step we'll talk about is installing additional chambers. When you purchase the 6400, the standard 2x3 clear chamber is in place. To remove this chamber so that you can install additional chambers, I will go through that process now. You will notice that there are two screws that hold the top chamber in place. Included in your spare parts kit is an Allen key that is appropriate for those screws. Go ahead and loosen each of those screws. And the chamber will separate from the rest of the center head. And I'd like you to notice that there are 3 O-rings that go between the chamber and the rest of the center head. And you can go ahead and remove the screws and the O-rings and place them on the table. And you can reuse those for your next chamber. To disconnect the clear chamber from the center head, you'll notice that the internal PAR sensor has a cable that connects on the side of the center head. To remove the light sensor cable, you want to grab a hold of the white plastic lip on the connector and then simply pull straight out. You do not want to pull out on the cable because the cable can become disconnected from the white connector if you use too much force. So whenever removing the internal PAR sensor cables, always make sure to grab by the connector and not the cable. Next, we are going to show you how to install your 6400 O2B red-blue LED light source. When you remove the light source from the box, you will notice that there are 3 positions where you can place O-rings. Go ahead and insert the O-rings we just removed from our clear chamber and put them in the proper spot on this new chamber. You'll notice the 2 outer O-rings are slightly smaller and the inner O-ring is thinner but much larger. And we will go ahead and reuse the screws that held our top chamber in place earlier. And go ahead and insert those, and then you can place the chamber next to the center head and tighten the screws. Now, the light source has 2 cables that must be plugged in for it to work properly. One of the cables is for the internal PAR sensor, and this cable we just removed from our clear chamber, so we already know where that plugs in. The other cable supplies power to the light source, and that connects to a small black connector on the right side of your center head. And if you look at the connector, you will see that there's a little notch in the power source connector, and that notch lines up with the notch on the connector. And you simply push it straight down for it to make contact. Now our light source has been installed.